Welcome to the Space Shovel Podcast. Today you'll notice that I'm not actually on the episode. I am in the room, I just don't have a microphone or camera on me. So there are some sections where I jump in, ask some questions, and in those sections I do put the question on the screen because it is a little hard to hear me. This conversation is all about drones. So we're talking about the future of drones, what we're doing now with drones, and what that looks like for some new technology in the future. We're joined by Kyle, Todd, and Terry. Dan has a great conversation with the three of them. They are drone experts that work for Avian. If you're interested in learning more about what we do with drones, you can visit the Avian website at avian.com, avian.com. Besides that, there were some technical glitches with some of the cameras, so you'll notice that some of the footage was lost, but the audio is still all there. If you're interested in this type of tech, I think you'll really enjoy what you hear and see in this episode. Thanks again, and I'll see everybody later.
Hey, this is Dan. As you guys know, I'm the Vice President for strategic innovation here at Avian. And I got three really smart guys here with me today. Over to you all to introduce yourselves.
All right, sure thing. So my name is Terry Hahn. I work with UX24 as basically a drone pilot.
Kyle Matthew, I work for UX24. I'm the lead drone pilot.
Excellent. The lead drone pilot. Everybody's quickly put in their place.
And my name is Todd. It's double blind. I'm just a regular drone pilot for UX24.
So not the lead drone pilot.
Not the lead. I just share the office with the lead.
Yeah, Kyle's the tallest. So
Yeah.
Can you give a background of what UX24 is?
Sure. UX24 is a test and evaluation squadron under NavAir. We basically, like all the other test squadrons on Pax River, we test unmanned aircraft all the way from Group 1 all the way to Group 4. So smallest would be probably like a Raven. The largest is a MQ-8 Bravo and Charlie Fire Scout.
So how did you become a drone pilot, let alone the lead drone pilot?
Many years ago. So I started off as a Navy pilot. So I flew EA-6B Prowlers. After that, I went to Navy postgraduate school and got a master's degree in aerospace engineering. While I was there, I met a really cool group that was flying drones for the U.S. Navy, which I'd never heard the U.S. Navy had them. At that point, I basically said, I want to do that because I've been into flying RC airplanes for my entire life, basically. And I found out who they were, came to Pax River to fly drones with them, and then I kind of got the drone kind of stink on me, and they're like, oh, you're a drone guy now. Yeah. So that's kind of how I got into it.
Cool. All right, so in the movie Back to the Future, we all remember the essentially flying skateboards, the hoverboards, which were cool and just really used to get from point A to point B. Fast forward, or backwards, a bunch of years, and here we are with drones becoming more and more common, not quite ubiquitous, but getting there. You guys have a lot of experience with drones, so if you were to guess a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, where are we going to be with common everyday usage of drones? You know, there's this vision of Amazon drones flying everywhere, you know, dropping off Twix bars and toilet paper and auto parts on your front door. Is that really going to happen? What do you guys think?
well, it's entirely possible. I mean, we're almost to that point now, and as far as people flying them around for recreation, right, with cameras and whatnot. So as far as commercial availability of drones, I think it's just a matter of time. The technology is definitely there.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the Navy kind of sees where this is going. I mean, we're testing a cargo UAV down at Pax River at Webster Field, where we work at UX24, that actually delivers parts from Navy ship to Navy ship. So we have a big demo in July, kind of demonstrating that technology right now. So,
how big is it?
So it is, max gross weight is 150 pounds. It can carry up to 25 pounds. It's got about a 18-foot wingspan. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's technology coming. Navy's finally coming on board with it. The other services have been on board with drone technology for over a decade now. And so the military definitely sees the future in it. What's
the range on the one you're talking about, roughly?
So it can fly for about 7 to 8 hours at 60 knots. So it's about 300-400 miles.
Okay.
So yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, with technology getting smaller and smaller, especially software, firmware availability to COTS being able to be purchased more easier, it's definitely going to get easier just for a consumer to build stuff. For an example, like they're already doing commercially cargo delivery with the Wing out near Virginia. They're actually delivering like cookies and textbooks that they're flying around the college near Virginia Tech area, which is quite fascinating. It's a VTOL aircraft that actually has a little like bucket that goes down on a string and drops the bucket and then takes back off and goes pretty much autonomously. But I mean, only for year to year, the technology is going to get smaller and more efficient. Different ways of increasing battery life, fuel economy, and aircraft already doing 45-hour flights nonstop is only going to get better and better. And same thing could be applied to hoverboards. There's guys now doing little quads that are hovering a couple feet above the ground, and down the line is only going to get more efficient over time. It's definitely a possibility that it'll be commercially available for anyone to use.
So when are the lawyers going to get involved here? So what's going to happen, and suddenly the lawyers are going to get involved and like put the brakes on everything? Like you're talking about the down at Virginia Tech. Like what if it misses? What if something drops out of the sky and lands on some fourth grader in a playground? Then
Right.
what?
That's definitely a possibility. I mean, there's always going to be lawyers, right?
Right.
So, but look at Tesla. I mean, they have pretty much autonomous cars that you could drive around, and if they get into an accident, what do the lawyers do then? Who do they sue? Do they sue Tesla? Do they sue the owner? I see the lawyers probably going after the deepest pockets, right? So whoever the manufacturer is, whether it be Amazon or whoever, I'm sure the lawyers will go after them first, and then once those expensive lawyers start fighting each other, they'll go down the next rung to the owner and say you weren't operating it in accordance with this regulation or this manual, and then they'll be in trouble. So, I mean, there is some sort of a precedent here already with Tesla and what they're doing. I'm not sure what the legalities are if you get into an accident when you're driving your car autonomously, but I'm sure there are some.
Yeah.
Well, you kind of talked about it here too. I mean, the lawyers are already basically in it as far as the FAA goes and setting up the regulations that are currently out there. So, like I said, following the regulations that are set forth, there's been a lot of, I guess progress would be arguable, but they're making steps toward letting drones into commercial airspace like we're talking about.
Is it making it better or the opposite of better?
Okay, my own personal opinion here.
No,
Here we go.
we're just talking amongst everybody, like the whole world.
For me personally, like Kyle, I've been flying RC airplanes recreationally for years, and it's making it much harder to do that. But it is opening up the airspace for commercial operations. So
I think like most government regulations, it's probably going to be very strict in the beginning. So it's going to be painful for everybody. And then as they see the technology grow and it's got a safety record associated with it, those regulations will start coming down. Like again, back to Tesla. Like 10 years ago, do you think like the government would have been like, yeah, you could drive an autonomous car on the road. Don't worry about it. Take your hands off. Take a nap. Good to go. No. But Tesla's proven that it can be done.
And it works great, except when it doesn't.
Exactly. And so that's kind of what it's leading to. That's why you need that years and years and years of safety behind it to say, okay, the probability of something going wrong is this because we have this much data to back it up.
Right. Okay. Todd, what do you think?
And even now, it's just getting more expensive integrating UAS into the National Airspace System. Is that now they want like pings transmitting in and out or just out so other aircraft can see the drones, but now these units are like almost $2,000 a piece. An average RC guy might not be able to afford that on his $50 airplane that is now required to have this integration for other aircraft to see. So like I said before, with technology getting smaller and smaller, and over time with more integration, I could definitely see it more cheaper over time, being able to integrate it. But it's a huge kind of battle between RC hobbyists and we'll say drone hobbyists and guys trying different levels of UAS trying to integrate into the National Airspace System. You kind of have people like Airbus or Lyft or Uber doing the urban air mobility that has more commercial records from known spots, known routes in the National Airspace System versus guys or girls or whoever just hoverboarding through traffic, through the air at altitudes where you don't know what's really going on or through approach paths. So it's definitely going to be an interesting way of how they integrate all that. But known it is being fully conducted like NASA and other agencies trying to integrate, multiple test centers through the NAS.
Yeah. So how many different, I'll say orthogonal vectors, sorry for the engineering talk, the orthogonal vectors are coming in to try and sort of sort through this? You have hobbyists, small companies, big companies, urban air mobility companies, delivery companies. I mean, there's more than a dozen people that are sort of attacking this right now, trying to sort of stake their claim, if you will. How is that going to sort itself out? I mean, holy cow.
Yeah,
I wish I could tell you. That'd be great to know.
Perhaps the lead drone pilot can tell us.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's definitely a whole bunch of stakeholders in this. It's the wave of the future, I should dare to say, and everyone wants a piece of the pie early, right? They want to get their foot in the door. So,
where should we put our dollars? So who's going to win? Can you tell us?
well, you would have thought like a big company like Amazon or something would win, but when it came to the latest FAA regulations, Amazon and big companies actually didn't get what they wanted.
What did they want?
So basically, they wanted to have this system where all the little guys, the drone guys, would have to put these tracking systems that would have to go over the air, over your cell phone, and be tracked to tell you where you are, where you took off from, where your aircraft is at all times. And if you didn't have a smartphone or a way of doing that, then you're kind of out of luck. Whereas a company like Amazon, they've got the resources to be able to immediately, comply with those regulations, basically shutting out half of their competition on the way. So that's kind of what they were looking at doing. And the FAA, I thought wisely said, no, we're not going to do that, because if we do that, we lose all of our credibility that we're selling out to the big companies. And that was a big win for the smaller UAV companies and the hobbyists. We didn't get everything we wanted. Amazon didn't get everything they wanted. It's going to be a compromise for a long time. So, I mean, at least it's a step in the right direction that the FAA made that decision.
Okay, cool. What do you guys think? Terry, Todd?
Yeah,
you don't have to think anything. It's okay.
I think the biggest thing that hasn't really been brought up much is the fact that, and it's been an issue, I know out west in wildfires, was drones interfering with firefighting aircraft or first responders. And hopefully that gets sorted out the quickest, I would say. And I think it's going down that path. Other than that, yeah, there's so many vested interests, it's hard to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, even with the smaller hobbyist UAS, I mean, they do have protective fail-safes to prevent them from going into certain areas or certain altitudes that are altitude restricted or airspace restricted. But most companies usually submit a waiver through the FAA for line of sight or beyond line of sight operations. So companies kind of doing that is helping kind of format that into the airspace, as I think each kind of layer has their own tier, if that makes sense. Like small has, their airspace, their altitudes. Urban air mobility has their routes, their altitudes. And is trying to do the integration with manned aviation. Is definitely going to take there, but I mean, I know a couple test centers here out west, NASA, New York, are constantly testing small unmanned aircraft with nests and are able to execute it perfectly. It's just how do you take that and spread it down the tree to everyone else? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's there. It's going to take some time, but I definitely do think it's feasible that eventually everything will be kind of integrated into a fair play among everyone. If that makes sense.
So you're hopeful?
Hopeful, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been...
Do you think we'll end up with like very specific air corridors where only certain class unmanned systems can go? Effectively like commercial air travel now. There's very specific corridors that they fly. Do you think we'll get that at various levels for unmanned systems?
For certain platforms, definitely, yeah. It'll be tough to do that with, for example, the aerial delivery drones that will need, big chunks of airspace over wherever they want to deliver stuff. But for certain classes of drones, absolutely.
Okay. So let's talk about two different things. So one, do you think that at some point, and let's presume this is going to be battery operated and not gas powered, because holy cow. We're kind of almost there, right? Where we talked about this before the podcast started, where you could create a drone, stand on it, and have it take you from point A to point B. Would you guys do that?
You only live once, right?
I think I would. I mean, it depends on how high it goes, right?
And how high would you go?
Right. If it's
let's say the FAA says, hey, you got to be out everybody's way. You got to be 40 feet in the air if you're going to do that.
I probably wouldn't be the first one to go at 40 feet in the air, but I would definitely do it at some point, especially firstly over a lake. I would do it.
Are you standing or are you sitting in your mind as you're doing this? Are you standing or are you sitting?
I'm standing as I'm doing it, but as I get older, I'm going to want to have to sit.
Yeah.
So we'll start with standing.
So
and
first,
go with
define
sitting.
what old means. So be careful.
I
kidding.
decline to answer that. But yeah, I would. Yes, I would sit in a drone and have it take me somewhere.
Are you flying it, or are you punching in a coordinate and it's taking you?
That's a good question. I would punch in a coordinate, it would take me, but I'd want the ability to take over and fly it manually if I see something going wrong.
Okay. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I would agree with that. My biggest thing would be falling into the props and being blendered. So
Yeah.
as long as we could avoid that. Yeah, so
And what about the people who are like 40 feet below you who get your blender leave-ins after you've been blendered?
if somebody throws up on the tilt-a-whirl, right? Just everybody around it is the ones that, yeah.
You know, you're going to be going, there's no corridors, right? So you're flying right over the, the giant parking lot, the supermarket, and there's like a mom with her 2 kids, and all of a sudden you're blendered above her and just as, I don't know, man.
Get some chain link fence over those props or something.
Yeah.
But I mean, honestly, seeing in our line of work, we've seen drones land in all different sorts of configurations they weren't supposed to ever be in, and they actually get back pretty darn good. It takes a pretty hard failure to actually down one of those. So
Okay. Todd, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, especially sometimes on my LinkedIn page, I see very interesting things come across my feed. Kind of like when we had these giant hexacopters, six-arm propeller quads. But the pitch, they definitely have enough to pick up a person. If you were brave enough to grab onto it and have maybe sock lift me off the ground for a little bit, They do have hybrids, that could definitely maybe supply the power and longer range. But you're definitely talking about a bigger footprint across that. However, I've seen some people on my LinkedIn page literally like fly it and then have some guy take the controller, grab onto the bottom, and then whip you around. I've also seen some guys take a traditional quad and the kind of where like urban air mobility, like where a couple of these small cargo drones are going. They're using more efficient, but they're like more propellers on the quad and on the VTOL side. But some guy had 4 panels. It was like he took 4 giant box fans and put like 100 propellers in each one and had a cradle sat in it, like it's kind of like a racer, and was flying around his yard, So it's kind of like you can't really get hit by a prop. You'll just drop out the sky, And we were talking earlier because I saw a guy have one of them and he had a hammock on the bottom. He was just laying in the hammock, kind of what Kyle was talking about, just flying himself around town. I'm like, now that's awesome. Now, like if battery endurance or hybrids get there and you get like high-pitched props that are kind of efficient, that can't drain it actually more on the upside of the curve, yeah, you could definitely, I think, fly around. It's just having the next generation be more creative. You kind of get those, all right, we're going to lift some people up, we're going to put some people in it, and then you're going to get to that age to where these hoverboards might become actual racers. You know what I mean? Like VTOL racers you kind of see in the future. So it's definitely, I think, a possibility, especially with a lot of the software and technology upgrades. I definitely see it feasible and companies being able to make it safe and affordable. So
you bring up software. So in your current line of work, how often does something go wrong and you go like, I don't know what happened. It was just a hiccup in the software. Don't know. Is it more?
Multiple times a day?
Right.
we only got a 30-minute podcast. So
I did do this yesterday.
Right. So there you have it. Right. There's this old guy's main issue with the urban air mobility is software, best I can tell, at least in the year 2021, is imperfect. And stuff just happens and nobody knows why. And, if you're in that, 4-seater going from downtown San Francisco to your meeting in Mountain View, and it's a 60-mile ride, that it would take you an hour and a half via car, but it'd take you 20 minutes on your urban air mobility eVTOL, and then there's a software hiccup and you get plunked into the bay. I don't know, man. When you guys have software hiccups, what happens?
Take it, Kyle.
Take it.
Take it.
Take it.
Normally
lead
when we have
pilot.
normally when we have software issues, it tends to be on the ground. So we'll try to start something up and it won't start correctly, or something will happen. And we have to reboot it. Let's check this.
The
and check
dreaded
this.
reboot.
It rarely happens in the air. I will have to say that we have a software glitch that has such a malfunction that the aircraft crashes. Usually it's a hardware failure if the aircraft crashes, but software is usually on the ground. Okay. Have you guys agree with me on that, or?
Yeah, even on that.
Yes, boss.
Not their boss.
Lead pilot. Yeah, especially like hardware failures are known, but usually if anything fails, it's usually just your telemetry link that usually fails. It's not usually the autopilot flying the system. It's usually your link from the ground up there, which obviously can change. And the more expensive units you buy telemetry-wise, usually have double or triple redundancies to mitigate that. But if you're talking about like urban air mobility and stuff like that, they might have like parachutes or some type of recovery system, or of that on their routes, they actually might have designated landing zones that are picked for different legs at altitudes that engine out here, auto
Hopefully auto rotate.
down to this location or whatever. But I definitely think they wouldn't consider that. I know they're doing some test flights now, even with some with the Air Force. I think they're doing like one-man urban mobility kind of units. But it's kind of like the same risk you could take as a manned helicopter pilot. You're just trusting an autopilot system. But most people trust it anyway. You're an airliner. It's flying most of the time, 400 feet. You're taking off as the pilot, autopilot most of the way. So I think people trust it more than they think they do, or they don't.
Know.
Yeah, that they know about. Because they have thousands of people flying every day by autopilot, not knowing that a pilot is just sitting there monitoring the system, taking it if need be. So I think just building the trust up, will eventually get people more common to the idea of trusting a system like that.
And they're fly-by-wire anyways, right? So even the pilot, when he's controlling it, it's still going through the autopilot in the software.
Right. That's a fair point. Okay.
So here's a question. What comes first, the eVTOL transportation or hoverboards that use drone technology?
Well, people have made the hoverboard already.
Yeah, so
Right.
I think
It's
the
already
hoverboard
there.
would come for like Terry said, we've seen the YouTube videos. I think the hoverboard is already here, and it will get better, and it will be before like the eVTOL, the bigger, actually carrying people who haven't made it. Like if I made an eVTOL hoverboard, I know I made it. I know what could go wrong. I know how to troubleshoot if something goes wrong. If I get into something someone else made, then it's kind of like, all right, how did they make this? How does this thing even work? This thing's a miracle. It doesn't even flies. Oh my God. I think those would come first.
So Kyle, so intrinsic in that is if there was one for sale on Amazon, theoretically that would mean it's been tested, it's been approved, somebody has given it the up check. They've, you probably still wouldn't buy it, or not yet.
Well, it depends on the price, right? So,
Yeah.
I'd probably buy it and fly around my farm for a little bit and just have fun with it, but I wouldn't take it out in town.
Okay, you wouldn't. So would you live locally somewhere around
I
here?
live down Piney Point.
Okay, so you wouldn't go from Piney Point and go like to a Nats game downtown.
No, but I go from Piney Point to Webster Field over the water.
Okay, gotcha.
Silver Surfer.
Yes. All right. All right, so let's wrap it up, guys. So closing thoughts on hoverboards, drones, unmanned vehicles, eVTOLs. Like, are your kids going to be getting on an eVTOL and punching in coordinates and going to a concert downtown? Do you think? Or maybe your grandkids, or maybe nobody?
You can start, Terry.
Terry, over to you.
As the shortest member of the team.
Yes.
I don't know. It's definitely coming for sure. Absolutely. I think kids probably. I think possibly us. I think a lot of it has to do with liability, like you're talking about. I think reliability is
It's a big one.
Is I think pretty much there. It's just making sure systems are redundant. I mean, it's definitely the wave of the future.
Yep.
Right? There's no way around that. So.
All right, Kyle?
Yeah, I have a 4-year-old daughter, and I think by the time she's my age, she'll be riding either a hoverboard that I built for her, or she would be riding one in an eVTOL type aircraft.
Cool.
Pick socks only, though, right?
Yeah.
Nobody texts. Yeah, for when I eventually have kids, I think that's definitely a possibility. I also think it's a possibility with just the upcoming generation because a lot of these kids now in school are taking lots of coding classes. I mean, more than like I took.
It's coding with a D, not a T, right? They're not painting.
Software
with you.
coding, especially with 3D printing. You know, especially I know it's been kind of there since like the late '90s, but it's so cheap and commercially available for high school students that I eventually think that upcoming wave of this generation, the crazy ideas, the kind of like the rebels will eventually start doing stuff like that. And part of that generation will be the kids that grew up with that, which might make the legislation easier or the integration easier. But definitely there. Maybe when I'm 80, I'll give it a go. One last ride, you know, Fast and Furious 90 or something like that. One last ride.
That's funny.
But it's definitely there, and I think it will be there if you just look at 200 years ago from the revolution to where we are now.
Yeah.
It's there. It's just a matter of when.
Well,
when
yeah,
it's gonna
and
get
that's a
there.
great point. If you look at the Wright brothers, 115 years ago versus the F-35, it's come a long way.
Yeah.
We're kind of like in the 1940s and 50s of aviation right now. We know how to fly, and our stuff is about to just
Take off?
yeah,
Yeah.
No pun intended.
exactly.
All right, cool. All right, guys, thanks a lot. I think that's it, Ian.
Thanks.
All right, cool.
Thanks for having us.
All right.